Hi, Dana.
Hi.
Welcome to the greenhouse. We are at the IFFR, and this is the RTM Curated program where we have a whole day of work from creators in Rotterdam. And today we're going to be talking a little bit deeper about your process of making the film. It was a really powerful film. It's a very personal journey from the port of Rotterdam to the port of Beirut, which then goes into the disaster that happened, which was the biggest non-nuclear explosion in history. And for me, was this super personal insight into something that I only see through crisis imagery on the news, etc. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
No worries.
Nice to meet you, Jack.
You just got back from your premiere, is that right?
Yes, I just finished my first premiere in Rotterdam.
Oh, wow. How was that?
It was great. The reaction was beautiful and the questions were nice. So, yeah. And, yeah, I mean, even though I made it, again, it made me cry, even though I edited this film.
Wow.
So it is still emotional. It is a film that is very personal, yet very social, yet very collective in its story.
Yeah.
So
it's such a powerful film, and I think gives such a personal insight into something that personally I only experience through these sort of crisis images that you see on the news and stuff. So to get this like really personal insight is. Yeah, it's really powerful. So thank you.
Yeah,
it's
thank
really
you.
nice.
And as well, I tried. I was a little bit scared of showing footage that is triggering for a lot of people. This explosion is still not processed.
Yeah.
It is a traumatic experience that people had to deal with and are still dealing with, especially in the port and around the port. So I tried not to put any footage of the explosion itself.
Yes.
So that's why I tried, as much as possible to be responsible for the people watching the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in a way that makes it even more touching because you're not. I think we're so used to these sort of images of crises and stuff now that we're kind of immune to them, and it closes us off in a way, and whereas attaching yourself to a really personal story I don't know, it was really engaging.
Thank you. Yeah.
Your film has been categorized under empowerment, and I just wondered how you associated with that category and that title with your film.
I am usually a person who is against the word empowerment because for me the word empowerment is puts a lot of hierarchy in it. There is a lot of hierarchy in it. There is someone who's powerless, and then you come as if you are the person with the power to empower them. And for me, power, if it means strength, if it means revolution, if it means any of that, it means the power that we share. So resharing power is different than empowering.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm in this category thinking like I wish the word was not as if I am giving power to the people of the port or as if someone is giving me power because I am powerless. Like even in feminism, if you think about it, there's the mainstream feminism that is now in the ads and the, necklaces and everything and the advertisement. It's all about like empowering women, la la la. For me,
performative.
It's performative. It's on the surface. You don't empower women. Women are powerful.
Yeah.
You just need to just move a little bit, give the space because the space is theirs. But oppression and, marginalization is just pushing people and women and to the corner. And no, we have our space. We are powerful enough. So we don't need empowerment.
Yeah, definitely. And the word that came up a lot when I was watching it, I was thinking about access and belonging, maybe as alternatives within the empowerment thing, because I think, at the beginning of the film, you really don't, it's sort of showing how you don't have access to the port of Rotterdam and all these side of things. And then as the film progresses and you go back to, or you go to Beirut and then it suddenly feels like you have access, and as an audience member, it also feels like you've given us access, like watching it, and like, wow, I get an insight into this world that you've sort of opened up to people. So for me also the empowerment was on the audience, on the viewers. I don't know.
I mean, there is as well a difference between the bureaucratic system in the Netherlands, in which even to work on, let's say, the water taxi that brings, once the tunnel was closed here in Rotterdam, and then there was a water taxi, and every time I step on that water taxi, I ask the worker, I'm like, can I work here? How can I work here? He's like, you need to have a degree to work on this. And his job was to open the door to us and close the door, and I was like ready to do anything just to have that job. So that was almost impossible, while in Beirut you just need to insist and be passionate and just ask and say how much you love it. And especially because I'm a woman, they are not used to that in the port. I was the only woman in the port, so it was a very masculine men energy, and when I entered, it was always like all eyes on me. What's this woman doing here? You know, so yeah.
And after the end of the filmmaking process, do you feel more like a sea woman or an artist?
Oh, that's a good question. Only when I brag, I feel like a sea woman. When I tell you, oh, this is the plimsoll line, it means this and that, this is the bulbous bow. But no, I'm not a sea woman, and it's very tough to be a sea woman. But I'm not, because access is hard, at least here. And I want to be an artist who is having a sea woman job as well at the same time.
That you can slip into every so often. There's such a, like I mentioned before, this like connection as a viewer to the people that you're speaking to, the characters in the film that were there. And I just wanted to know a bit about the process of how you obviously started to work with them, but then also how you get to film them and how you make them so comfortable in telling these stories, which is so, I don't know, deep stories for them.
This is the thing about the port workers. They are really the purest people I've met. In Lebanon, they are like the people who are content with everything, yet their life is a struggle. That's why I wanted to amplify their voice, even though they were shying off from saying bigger struggles. You know, like there is things that about their financial state, about their daily struggles, they were trying to say, thank God, we're fine, you know? So these are the people who I love from the bottom of my heart. And this film is like in support and in the love of these workers. So I got to talk to them because we have a very good relationship. I really appreciate them and I look up to them. And in the moment of the explosion, I called Faisal and I called Mahmoud. I called everybody who works there, and I used to know them. I used to work with them. No one picked up except Faisal, his son is missing. And when he responded, he said 3 words. Diana, I will talk to you later. The marine pilot is crying and my son is missing. I need to search for him. Bye. And then this only thing that he said, the marine pilot is crying. Here you can see how much it's misogynist energy in the port, that the marine pilot is always the boss that comes, and when he comes, everybody should be kind of like in respect, scared, stiff, you know. And then when he saw him in such a moment, he related. You feel that there is a relation between the big trauma, the biggest thing that's happening, his son being missing, and the softness and the, you know, leaning or the breaking of a person who looks tough, because I don't assume they are tough. They just want to perform that energy in the port, when he was broken. So those 3 sentences like blew my mind, you know. And then after 2 hours, I kept texting to say, please let me know when you find your son, and he found him. So after 2 years, actually, the film was done. After 2 years from that moment, that I decided to make the film. Because I always had this feeling that, you know, when there is crisis, everybody artists, they think they are entitled to speak about the crisis and to speak from the name of the people or like from the tongue of the people. And I found that so scary that I don't want ever to be in a position of entitlement. I'm not entitled. So I was always saying, who am I to make a film about the port? Until the moment I applied to Overhead Eye Festival in Amsterdam, where they have a sea container program. And then I was thinking, I have a footage from 2017 in the port where you are not allowed usually to film in the port, where the silo, where the grain silo was still standing. So, you know what? Maybe I want to make a work about the port because I was part of the port. I'm not entitled or entitled. I am part of this. So it's okay to speak from within. So that's why it took me 2 years to kind of say, it's okay, you know?
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's
but
important.
you were already filming there, right? And you were already doing these things.
Yeah, and it's important as film directors, as artists, to know where do we stand and what is our position. We cannot stand on a pedestal. This is what I was trying to be very responsible for the people, you know, not for the people as if I am responsible that this content should, when it is seen, feel a solidarity, a grassroots thing, holding hands, you know. It's I want to hold your hand with this film.
Yeah, no, you really feel that. I think that's why I asked the question, is because, and that has such a profound effect on the viewer, because you somehow, when you're watching it, feel a bit like in your position because of the connection. You can tell how he's speaking, and that's why I asked how this relationship formed with these people. Yeah, it's really strong.
Thank you.
How does apart from in the way you've just described in sort of a moralistic, artistic perspective, but apart from that, how do you think the filmmaking process affects the people you're working with, and then finally affects the audience?
It's okay. I'm an interdisciplinary artist, so I work with film, but not as my main medium. Yeah. So with this film, it was, the intersection between what can you know about working with tools and what do you want to deliver. My process, it's more experimental. I don't have a storyboard. I don't have, I know that the film should be like this. While doing it, I know what I'm doing. I know the starting point, and sometimes I know the middle and I know the end, but I don't know what's in between. The nice thing about working in film is that you have so many levels of senses. So you have the visual, you have the music and the talking. Yeah. One of the hardest thing was to read the text, because I wrote the script. And when I arrived to writing about the moment of explosion and how I received it, I kept crying while writing it. But when I went to the studio to do the voiceover, that moment, everything was like smooth. That moment, I was crying. And then I stopped. And then I record again. And then I stop. And then record again. And then I discovered that maybe I should keep it as it is, crying. Imagine a voice-over crying. Yeah. But then it's too dramatic. But then I was like, I will put it on the timeline and see. Yeah. That moment, I was like, I hated the vulnerability that I am in. And it felt as if it's performative, and it was not. So I cut it and I kept it as the screen. Because for me, seeing what I have received through the screen by reading is as well good for the audience to receive it by reading. So there was a lot of decision-making, a lot of stress that I love. There is a stress of the making and the decision-making that is actually the one that I love doing. So the musicians that worked with me are amazing, brilliant. The people in the port, of course, the story is all about them. The people who helped film, the director, another director I know, she's a friend of mine. Her name is Sarah Fattahi. She helped with the camera in Rotterdam. So these people are the people who contributed and I have so much love to them. So it is as well how to build a film through being together, yet you don't have the fund to hire people, so you have to do it through friends, which makes it even more warm, like a family business, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And how does it differ from your? Have you made other films in your artistic process?
I did, and my other films are. I don't know if I can say more research based and more personal, political, the same as this one, but layered in the sense that I can take your hand and walk you.
Mm-hmm.
I walked people in this film from Rotterdam, taking their hand with me to Beirut. But in those ones, I take your hand and you arrive to a place that you wouldn't expect in the beginning of the film. And they are short, they are more of a video art. This one feels more of a film than of video art.
Yeah.
So everything is dependent on the concept. So what I'm working with depends, like is the outcome is dependent on the project and the concept.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And do you have other parts from this filmmaking process that you consider part of the project, or is it just the film? Like, is it also other output, or just the film that?
Writing.
Yeah.
The process of making music was beautiful.
Yeah.
I love thinking of music, and that was the part that I loved. In Beirut, we had to smuggle the camera into the port.
Oh wow!
So a lot of things in the making of the film, in the shooting, was dependent so much on I can't put the tripod. I don't want to take a permit, and I don't want to film upon like, you want to film. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted the film to be done the way I usually enter the port.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be as genuine and as shaken as this city is, Beirut had been shaken and the camera is shaking there. So for me, this was part of like making the film that has to do the frame you see is very much related to how the camera that filmed that frame entered the port.
Yeah, and there is that. I mean, it comes back to that access, that feeling of access, or this kind of loose feeling where you feel like you've been snuck in when you're watching it.
Totally.
So, it really works.
Yeah.
And are you working on anything? Have you got anything else planned to start working on?
Now I'm working on a project about famine and hunger strikes. Totally different project, but speaks about the digestive system and how politicized it is. So I'm trying to relate these two types of hunger, and I want to make a film about this. So now I'm in the research process, so I can't speak much about it. But I'm looking forward to start.
Yeah.
Like,
does that start in a similar way as you started this project? In terms of you're just sort of, does the research process happen in a similar way, or is it?
No, I think this one is different because this one. Yet I come from a working class family. In my childhood, we were in a very dire situation, but we have never felt hungry. My dad always made sure to put food on the table, and my mom so too. So hunger that I want to speak about is not starting from the personal to the political. This time is coming from the political to the personal. And for me, the personal is political, but the departure point between them is too close. But yet from which side of the coin you're starting. So this time I'm almost starting from the political and from things that affect me personally, but they are far a little bit from my skin. So
whereas the disaster cannot be contained was really starting from your personal, and then expanding on how that becomes political or other people's personal perspectives as well.
Exactly, and here we can go with the title of the film, "The Disaster Cannot Be Contained," to this conversation we just had about the entitlement of the artist of making an artwork, and this artwork usually is contained in a form, in a medium. And I just felt that this kind of disasters, they cannot be contained in a medium. I can't now close this subject and I say, I made a film about this, I closed the disaster, I contain it. It's almost impossible. So this film was supposed to be about as well the impossibility to make a film or an artwork about the disaster. Yeah.
But does it also work as a sort of way for you to process these events?
Definitely. But yet I told you, I just cried in the in the film, I didn't expect to cry because I edited this material. I was working with it.
Were you crying when you were editing? Or was
I was crying when I was editing it. But it was a tough project.
Yeah.
Emotionally, mentally, physically, every part of it was very emotional. The moment I entered the port of Beirut after 2 years of the explosion to film, I was smuggled as well in. So I was very busy thinking, how can I enter the port with the camera and make the camera safe because it's for a friend of mine. And thank you, my friend. And then his name is Makram Halabi. He's a very great photographer. And the moment I entered was my head before the checkpoint was thinking how to surpass the checkpoint. After the checkpoint, my head was just thinking, I am just seeing for the first time the port after the explosion that close. So the next day there was elections. But these elections are happening after 2 years from the explosion. Yet you see flags for political parties that are so corrupt. And you have a schizophrenia in your head, schizophrenic moment where like, I just saw the explosion for me after 2 years. And the second day I'm seeing people who are still waving those flags of corrupted politicians who allowed this to happen. So all of that was very shaking for me.
Yeah, you saying that actually made me realize that you don't explicitly talk about the politics behind it or the details of the event and why it happened and all these things. Was that a deliberate choice?
No, I tried. I tried actually with the interview because I wanted as well to deliver the voices of the people. But the conversation went into places that was very... there was fear in the people, you know? There was fear to speak. And for me, I didn't arrive to the political because I didn't have time while making the film to speak about the political per se.
Yeah.
But the film, all of it was about this negligence of the politicians that led to this port as a workplace to become an explosive political place. So yeah, I don't speak about it, but it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said at the beginning, there's this. Yeah, my input before watching the film was obviously just through the news, and you sort of dig a little bit. So I think we receive a lot of information already about that side of it, and it was actually, but we don't receive any of this personal.
And until now, nothing. The parents of the victims who died in that day, until now they are protesting. Until now they are trying to ask for justice to just let us know and stop interrupting the process of investigation. And you know, it is still interrupted. Yeah. We might never know. We still hope we know what happened. Yeah. But even this ammonium ship, I tried to ask in the port, do you know who got it? People are scared and they don't know, you know? Yeah. And if you start speaking about something you don't know, you might be asked other questions that you have nothing to do with. Yeah, so it's not hard. It's not an easy thing for the port workers.
No, it's not worth it
because
for them.
They don't know. They are just making ships enter and go out. But yet they are in a most vulnerable position because you don't know what's happening in these ships.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the film, that they don't know what they're tugging around. Just to go back a little bit to the sort of the processing aspects of the film, you know, I really noticed in the interview towards the end with the father, sorry, what's his name?
His name is Faisal. Faisal Sidawi.
With Faisal, where at the beginning you're listening to this interview and he's saying very frankly that he thought his son might have died, but there's not really emotion there, and I'm like, I couldn't imagine him crying in that situation. And then like a little bit but it was confusing. I was like, how can he say that so coldly? And then there's a specific moment when he recounts a sentence that he said, and then it all comes out, and it's yeah, it's emotional. It's emotional to watch. But I also wonder, have you spoken to them about to Faisal about how it felt for him to be filmed and to talk about it in that way? And
they were totally fine. I didn't even rehearse anything before the interview. I was like, "Are you okay to speak about the port explosion? What you have lived, our call, the moment you were searching for your son?" He was like, "Absolutely." And with his son, the same with Ahmed.
Yeah.
So. They spoke to me as Diana, that they know, not as, and now they are very happy with the film as well.
Yeah.
Very happy.
Yeah, I was going to ask
and,
if
they
you've
have
shown
the link, and they are watching it and sharing it with their closed ones. So they are happy to see that their voices is out, you know, out there. And this story, yet very personal, but it is one of the stories.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of stories that are not a story of missing and finding each other again. And this story happens to be like this because I know them, not because I chose to give the hope in this, or to give that, sometimes you miss someone and then you find them again. It's not a happy ending. Even at the end when he says, "Thank God, now we are fine." Again, it's about the content that they have for the little things.
Yeah, such relief.
So it is not that they are feeling good. They are not feeling good. This port is still a hard place. Living in Lebanon is still a hard thing, with the inflation, with the crisis, with the explosion. Now the inflation is like skyrocketing. It's crazy. People are thinking, and a lot of people went through the sea to try to escape, and a lot of them died. So everybody's thinking of that, and especially those people. So it's not easy. So yeah.
No, I can imagine. Well, I can't actually, but I can try.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. It was a really,
so much.
it was a really beautiful, important film. So yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks for talking with us.
Thank you for having me.